Hello Internet, hello new players. Today we're actually starting over in JP. This is a kind of Valentine's holiday unit that we didn't get, so I don't really know how to anticipate her. This is Bart's, who is going to be free and is... Look, if there is 100 cost for unit coming within months of a video, I'm going to point that out before the video even officially starts. But we're not talking about Bart's today, or why he's going to be cool, or why maybe you should save some extra viz for him. Even though you don't have to pull him, you should definitely go for his shards, and they should be pretty abundant if you just save up viz for the 2k for 40 bundles and grab a bunch of those in the shop. Today we're going to be talking about Winged Sterne, and he's technically not out as I'm recording this, but he will be out by the time I'm releasing this. It didn't look like in the news there were going to be any sort of a global upgrade for him. I heard somebody say that, and I was just thinking to myself, when has that ever really happened? Maybe they were talking about Chaos Bahamut, but hey, that wasn't what I was focused on necessarily. This seems like a really cool buff. I like his armor. I'm not necessarily sure. I don't know. I guess, is it a heavy armor or not? Armor. Okay, so not cloth. So it's going to be a heavy armor. I mean, it's good. It's good. Certain units are definitely... Anyone who's stacking Human Killer is definitely going to want this. So very good. But before I talk about him, I do want to point one thing out. That even when you consider the future, other than these guys... Well, actually, we're getting a couple. We're about to come out of kind of a dry patch. But like, look at this. This is where, well, kinda here, but this is where the 140 meta started. Limited unit, normal. Limited unit, semi-limited unit, limited unit. Wait, did she get a 140? I guess. Maybe I just didn't pay attention. Limited unit, limited unit, limited unit, non-limited unit, limited unit, limited unit. And actually we got these two first. So he is going to be like the first non-limited unit that has 100 cost, that's going to be really competitive even in this meta, that was born initially into the 140. Even, you know what, even Omnilus on Global was given to us during the 120 meta, which I think has really drastically negatively impacted our impression of her. I think she's a lot better than we tend to feel that she is. But we're not talking about all of that, we're talking about light. So we've got the man of the people, Winged Sterne here, and the true man of the people, Bart's here, completely free unit. But this guy's going to be added to the normal pool. That might say to some players, I'm not pulling on his banner. I personally can't afford to pull on his banner. But yeah, he's a man of the people. You don't have to FOMO on this guy. He's got solid passives, but nothing like super crazy. Nothing stacked like what we saw on Bradley. Reflex, although, is that, I think, is his 15, is his 20? 45% damage reduction is alright. But only physical. Anyways, this guy has a big old get rid of auto revive, and it is increased hit chance. So this is very similar to, I think it's a clever paladin strike for Sylvie. So that's going to line up well with Sylvie. I mean, except that the dispel auto revive would be redundant. This has increased accuracy as opposed to her slow. It gives slow. Also another increased hit chance here. Also, my understanding, very good accuracy as well. Accuracy on a buff. On a very, very good buff. On the auto revive buff. Also, has auto revive. Look, a lot of reasons why Winged Sterne is going to be a great unit. I wasn't sold on him at first. I thought he was going to have to be... I thought he was going to be kind of expensive. I thought he was going to be a good whale unit. There are certain things about him, about the way that he plays and the way that I think other units are going to interact with him, that are definitely going to benefit winged Sterns that people really invest heavily into and get a lot of reincarnations in. So if you are going for this guy, or you do pull this guy, and you have the light team to support him with, go heavy into him. This is the character you go all in on, I think. He's just really good, and I'm really happy that after having seen so many limited units, even great ones, in a row, that we are getting a man of the people, and of course it's coming to light. Don't that just make you feel good? Just ignore the Chaos Bahamut in the room. Hope. Look, I'm not the right person to tell you about Hope. I haven't actually seen anyone play a good Hope. I was, generally speaking, focused on lightning or snow during that collaboration, so I didn't really build Hope. So I got no experience with this guy. I see him more as a support, but I've heard he's more of a DPS. He also has a lot of non-elemental damage, which in some ways is kind of a negative because he isn't getting bonuses from party effects and from light attack up and that kind of thing. But on the other hand, this allows him to get away from light resistance, and typically speaking, when units have non-elemental attacks, that is more often a benefit than a loss. I do believe he does have some light attacks, but he's not like Phoebe where he just has no light attacks at all. But moving on, we have Elena. She is a magic-based, tank-busting, chaining evasion unit. She also has Courage. That Courage now has 2 casts, and she does have her 140 now. She is a Global First unit, so she's going to be on the big bad Global First banner. Violet, I'm going to kind of gloss over here. She was part of the Persona 5 collaboration. Shit, I did talk about Joker. I mean, look, the Persona 5 collab is probably not coming back anytime soon, so she's kind of irrelevant to talk about, but she's very fast, evasive, physical slash unit with some gunner moves in there as well for some actually really admirable range. She also has some CT up shenanigans, so in a lot of ways, she's a more evasive version of Bradley, but without some of the overpowered stuff that Bradley does. She's still a very strong unit, don't get me wrong. Another physical evasion unit that came out right around the same time as her, Locke, the unit that kind of broke evasion so hard that it had to be fixed by pretty much every big name unit after it coming out with high accuracy or a higher accuracy move if they were much of a DPS, because just putting an extra physical unit in with Elena really made light slash diverse in a way that previously Summer Killfay had been the only unit that could really bring that, and she's nowhere near as evasive as either Violet or Locke. So they really were Summer Killfay 2.0 in a lot of ways in terms of that comp. It's just kind of unfortunate that the meta around light evasion became a bit toxic to it shortly after Locke was released. He unfortunately never really had that much of a time to shine. But he is a great PvE unit, and if you get an opportunity to build this guy up to at least like 120 or 115 or something, if you get that opportunity, definitely take it, because he is quite a good unit, even if maybe he doesn't necessarily have a space to come back in PvP. Unfortunately, like a lot of the older free units, they definitely perform well in PvE. They are definitely good units. They can work on teams, but they're probably not going to return to being top tier in PvP in the way that they may have been when they first came out. Lucio, and actually, before I do that, let's give a preview, because I think that he's going to be getting a 140 soon. So let's look at what that 140 is going to be. This is a completely free unit. AoE resistance 10, decrease AP consumption 20. Both of those are quite good. Slash attack resistance penetration for 3 turns. 40 for 3 turns. on his big banger of a move. And also it's going to break AP or decrease AP by 20, which is even higher than Locke's AP hunt, and on a much larger area of effect. So that is going to be not only a really strong buff to push him towards higher damage, but it's going to be a really great break. Like, this move is borderline LB level at this point. Like, he has a secondary limit break off of this. It's not quite as strong as that, but it also doesn't have as high of an AP cost, and it does have 2 casts. So I'd say it's pretty well balanced, but it is getting to be a pretty nutty move at this point, especially for a free unit, especially for a unit that's quite interesting in that his master abilities, or his like master ability party buff, it's weaker than every other unit in the game, but it's universal. Just for all allies, for all elements. So he is like the closest thing we have to a true rainbow unit. Got that rainbow pride with Lucio. So let me switch back over to global now, factor out some of those even newer units, and also bring up our global exclusive, Sylvie. So Sylvie is featured by our most recent Fox of the Hill. Also a big fan of Sylvie. I agree. She is quite a fantastic unit that I think might be a little bit of a game changer for Light. I think that with Winged Stern to play around with, she might become even more relevant. I don't know, but I think that she's kind of a unit. She's overpowered for a healer, for a support, and honestly, her being overpowered in those ways also means that she has a very high potential for damage too. I'm not saying that she's a DPS necessarily, but she can do very, very, very DPS-y things sometimes. And like that she really has no business being able to do. So I think she's going to be an incredible partner for Winged Stern, and that is going to be one of the curveballs that JP players, well, the JP forecast may not see coming, especially because she never necessarily had a moment to shine for global. And again, I say this just because like she came out as Light was kind of at its weakest competitively. And again, after Ruin Stern and Chaos Bahamut, and maybe Chaos Bahamut might bring Light back into relevance. And because they're back into relevance, them having a great support can become relevant again. And I think that synergistically, Sylvie might be a big part of rebuilding the Light element. Alongside Stern, really. It's going to be the two of them in it together, bestest of friends. Summerkill Faye is a Strider. That is going to be an axe-based tank buster, lightly evasive, got some good buffs on her. Very lucky units, so she can be pretty accurate. She's not going to be one of the highest accuracy units, just like she's not going to be one of the highest evasion units, but that luck really gives her a good head start in both directions. She also has pretty high attack potential because of her passives, so that's not something to sneeze at. She can really lay in the damage, and she has a really powerful self-healing move that I think she can use multiple times at this point. So really quite a good unit. I am super excited to see what happens with her 140 because, she hasn't been usable since roughly Locke came into the meta, because even when Locke still had some room to be good before, again, the total environment of the game became kind of toxic to Light evasion. She was a pretty good unit, and I would love to see her become a good unit again. Then we've got the Light Select Quest unit, Camillo. Camillo is a very confused boy, just like he is in the story. He has a lot of damage types at his disposal, so he could work around resistances potentially really well. He also has a really good head start into being an anti-magic unit, which is pretty neat. But I don't know. He was the first select quest unit, and or was that Moraga? I think it was Camilla. I'm pretty sure it was Camilla. At least maybe it was just that Light was the first one that I was able to do, so I feel like it was the first one. But yeah, Camillo, I don't know. Maybe if he has he gotten a 140 in JP is a good question. Doesn't really look like it. No. So maybe a 140 makes him better, but like right now I don't even necessarily see the point in talking about him, except that the light select quest, at least getting up to level 10, isn't super hard. Yuna, which Pixel Remaster should bring back a lot of these collaboration units for us. She is probably, if it were not for Sylvie, the best light healer in the game. She was for a very long time. It took Sylvie to dethrone her from that. She doesn't have anywhere near the damage potential as Sylvie. She doesn't have the... She doesn't really have the same healing potential as Sylvie. There's just a lot of things that she's kind of lacking. She's they're both supports, really. Their AI tends towards being supports in both of their cases, but I think Yuna's claim to fame is going to be more along the lines of the fact that she has re-raise and full life and raise. She just has a lot of ways of keeping people alive. In addition to Curaga and Curada, she's got all of the things. And Pray. She has an instant cast Diamond AoE around her heal as well. So just all the heals. Very intensely healer, big healer energy. She has a self-healing reaction. She's a healer. Don't get me... Do you understand yet? Okay, El Sorel. She's a Nightblade. She's relatively tanky. Has good attack resistances, I would say. A little bit of potential into defense. She also has kind of a unique gimmick to where... I think it's like a Blade of Inertia, AP consumption, slowing enemies, that kind of thing. Because she's a sleepy girl, and that rubs off on other people in battle. Or at least they get real sleepy after they get a real concussed off that big ol' sword of hers. But in PvE, she's also a really good chaining unit because she has Drain Rush. That's just always a great move to have. A 3-hit slash move, just always great. Elshra is a Time Mage main with Quicken, so she's going to be a good unit in that respect. She's a little bit of a glass cannon because in addition to being kind of a supportive type, having White Mage, she's also a Rune Knight. So all of her jobs are glass cannon-y jobs. And that's kind of unfortunate because Rune Knight gives her access to Drain Evocation, which is pretty strong on her, and if she survives the thing, can definitely restore her HP. So great move on her. The thing is, how do you keep her alive to be able to use that to restore her HP is really the question. Sakura is a unit that I need to take a look at. So I played Sakura pretty religiously. She was my first 99 unit in this game. And then she just started feeling bad, and they didn't update her for a very long time. And then they did. And now I think her thing is that she's kind of lightly evasive. She's gotten to the point where her casting is pretty much instantaneous. quick Thunder's Light here. Resistance reductions happen before damage now. It's a big area of effect. Good size of damage. And it is also going to increase her agility. This is going to be a pretty big thing for her. That's going to help her evasion potential. Not super high, but also her general speed being really high. That's kind of the thing that's pushing her evasion. She's just very quick. So she can kind of dart around a map like a tiny little maniac of a child that she is. Dispelling courage, but also blasting with spirit penetration. Which is great because one of the cool things about Rebel Intention, or I think it was Rebel Intention in FFB, was that it had I forget what it was called, but like resistance mitigation 50, which now this does essentially in that spirit mitigation 50. So that's similar. So it has now kind of become what it was. And I'm not sure why it has so many upgrades. I don't necessarily see what they're doing, but holy crap, that is a big modifier. Wow. Okay. And she can break magic barriers too. Also, real big modifier, good range. And, you know, cast times don't mean a whole lot to her. She has enough cast time reduction that things get very quick. But that being said, she is squishy. She's very squishy. And she's not... it's going to be hard to build her for, I think, good defenses. And it's going to be hard to build her for evasion. So... I guess you want her blasting things before she gets blasted back and, you know, fully taking advantage of having as much agility on this girl as possible. Cecil, I actually think might get pretty cool by his Pixel Remaster re-release. We'll talk more about that by then. But for right now, he's kind of a moot point because you're not going to be able to get your hands on him. But right now, he's kind of a middling, mixed-up knight of the unit. He hasn't really found his place. He doesn't necessarily do a lot of damage. He doesn't necessarily tank. He has some supportive qualities, but he's... And you know, he's a little bit of a jack-of-all-trades in an unfortunate sort of way. And I think that his Pixel Remaster and his 140 is going to refocus him a bit. Marial is always a really impressive MR tank, especially against magic. I think against Slash to a degree as well. And also one of the most vicious characters in the story. You wouldn't really expect it, but oh man, she is a raging one. Warrior of Light was like the original must-have tank in this game. He was well-rounded and all of that. But while he does do a lot of things that look good on paper, I think he ultimately amounts to a couple of things. He has a lot of HP. He has the ability to threshold heal, and he has a lot of healing power up, so that threshold heal is going to do a lot. So more or less, he has one-shot resistance in that he just has too much HP unless you're using like a very powerful chaining move. And then on top of that, he has a threshold heal that is definitely going to put him back up again with that one-shot resistance. So it's not necessarily auto courage, but if you're not able to do much damage to him very quickly, then it's way better because he's just a wall. Ramza is really hard to explain. I also don't see him very often either, unfortunately. I did see the most ridiculous match with him recently. However, he is very much a jack of all trades, although what he does is like unique and in some cases almost overpowered enough that he's interesting, even though it comes together to be a little bit of a hot mess, if I'm being honest. And while I don't have much experience to know this, I feel like his AI is probably a real hot mess in auto. Again, reach out to me in the comments to tell me your rams of thoughts. He seems like a really fun manual unit, but I don't trust the auto to be able to know how to chew bubblegum and walk at the same time. Engelbert is a 70 cost tank, and he is incredibly durable against most things physical. He has the ability to get the most stonking, ridiculous defense stat. He has a courage that he can cast multiple times that gives him hate. He is just stubborn against anything that is not magic attack based. And even then, sometimes he has a pretty big wall of HP. He has other ways to raise his spirit. Maybe you've built up some spirit for him. But on the other hand, he's not very fast. He does have Monk as a sub-job, which means that, oddly enough, if he's not in range of people, he has heals that are not insubstantial and are actually really superbly effective on high HP, low magic units such as himself. So Monk especially, well, you don't really use tanks in manual, but if you knew when to trigger some of these abilities, that could make him a really annoying tank to face in manual, where most tanks are not actually that annoying. Mashari is a free unit through the shop. You can both pull her for, I want to say, like 2,000 coins, and you can get her shards for another 50, up to like 10 a day. Building her into 140, she's so if a mace meta ever solidifies, and there's kind of the cards for it but kind of not, she could be a good unit. She is stubborn, is a way of putting it. She gets surprisingly tanky because she can get surprisingly resistant in really a lot of respects. Like spirit and defense, she can pick up through her kit. Her attack type resistances, she can pick up through her kit. So she can be really annoyingly stubborn to take down and still somehow manage to do relatively consistent damage. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but if it takes you a while to get her off the field and she keeps stubbornly bashing you in the head with your mace, you are going to fall down dead eventually. Rob probably had a time and a place somewhere, but if you haven't picked up on this pattern, evasion units in light used to be a thing that you could do, and now it isn't. And Rob is one of the first evasion units for light, first serious evasion unit for light, and he hasn't been serious as such in quite some time. Even like his EX stuff didn't really lean into his evasion. His vision card was very good for evasion and remains the light, especially light physical evasion card. And his TMR is also incredibly powerful for slash teams, and can do some really ridiculous stuff in manual play. It is one that I love to play whenever I'm playing in manual, and also a lot of times in PB, like boss raid type content. TOR, it's especially Trials of Reckoning, it's especially good for. So despite the fact that I don't think anyone's going to play this boy ever again, he is dead to us as a unit. He does have a really good TMR, and he does have a really good vision card as well, though that's entirely separate from the unit, except that he's on it. Thancred is a free unit as a part of the Final Fantasy XIV collaboration. He's a 100 cost unit, and don't let that fool you, he is arguably a 70 cost unit, and I have a hard time saying that because I'm not even sure that he's as good as Engelbert. He's tanky. He has a lot of qualities in common with Engelbert. I think in a world before Engelbert existed, and again we're looking at this in kind of a chronological order, so like right after his release, for a couple of light units, he might have been relevant. Unless all of these were released at right around the same time, in which he was never really relevant. But like, I guess he does considerably more damage than Engelbert most of the time, but I don't know. He's kind of a lackluster brawler that falls apart to magic, but can tank through missile, I think, pretty well. Grace is, man, I get the Whisper Sisters mixed up. Something fierce. Okay, Grace is the white mage, green mage, and lancer of the three. Like the Earth version of the Whisper Sister, forget which one she was. She's really gonna be at her most useful, I would think, probably. In Select Quest stuff. And in Select Quest stuff specifically, this move is going to be really good. The rest of the sub-job is going to be terrible on her, but that specific move is going to get you out of some issues sometimes. I don't necessarily think that you probably run this, maybe just for this. I don't know. But I don't particularly like what she has in her white sub, because she actually does have really good white mage stuff. She has an upgraded Curaga, which is great. AoE resistance on that, I think, is excellent. She got Holy. She got Regen, pretty good. Full Life, which is pretty awesome. And this is a neat buff, but like it's again not something that you're going to use in PvP. Probably not what you're going to use in PvE, even limited PvP, because Phoebe exists. I think I would rather have Phoebe on my team, and if not, I would rather have Fina on my team. Just a lot of overlap in low-cost light healers, and of the three, I think best, second best, third best. Arguably best. Maybe. In fact, I have a whole video on Phoebe. It's my Phoebe and Zazan video that I'll go really in depth, but Quicken, Full Life, what's not to love? That's the gist of her. Vistral is a knifey, stabby boy. He can get pretty evasive, but yeah, it should be kind of like a broken record at this point that light evasion in general doesn't work. Elena, I think, can pull it off, but that's about it. So Vistral, sorry bud. He does, I believe, have steal time and the ability to mug, so maybe he helps get you some extra turtles, or maybe he slows down an enemy in PvE with something like steal time, maybe? Can we steal time? We can steal heart. No steal time. Oh, okay, steal time and sub-job, that's cool. Steal heart's interesting, though. Anyways, that can be devastating if it lands. It's hard to get the AI to use it, but maybe if you give him very low accuracy and run him headfirst into an evasion team, he'll do it. So, with that, I think that is what you need to know about light units. To a degree, past, present, and future. We didn't really talk about Bart's, and Winged Stern is only in the future for me in this recording, and I'm not touching Miranda. Really, when are we going to get her? Maybe next year? Maybe in a couple of months off season? Who knows? But with all of that being said, that was what you need to know about light, and I'll see you in the next one.